So you know what I did? I stopped the show. And I said, well, that didn't work. Everybody starts laughing.
That sort of humility comes from humble beginnings.
Imagine the neon lights of a Las Vegas residency and the screaming fans. Now, contrast that with the quiet, sun-drenched dirt of a private Utah orchard, where the real Osmond dynasty is growing tree by tree. In 2026, as Donny and Debbie celebrate 48 years of marriage, their 5 sons remain a mystery. Why did they choose the shadows over the spotlight? Today, we are revealing the private lives of the men guarding the Osmond legacy. But before we meet the men, we have to look at the living census Donny keeps in his backyard. Did you know he has a secret way of tracking every single grandchild born into the family? The Orchard Census and the 2026 shift. Donny Osmond does not just keep a family tree on paper. He grows one in the rich Utah soil. And as of May 2026, that private forest is getting more crowded than ever before. For those who only see the performer under the bright lights, it is hard to imagine him with dirt under his fingernails, but this orchard is where the real Osmond history is being written. Each time a new grandchild is born into the family, Donny plants a specific fruit tree to represent them. It is a living, breathing census that keeps the family grounded. By the middle of 2026, that orchard had grown to 16 trees. Can you imagine the sheer amount of work it takes to maintain 16 different legacies in your own backyard? This tradition is not just a cute hobby for a grandfather. It is a deliberate choice to create a sanctuary far away from the prying eyes of the media. If you were a world-famous superstar, would you want your grandkids constantly appearing in the tabloids? Or would you rather plant a peach tree for them in a secret garden where they can just be kids? For Donny and Debbie, the answer has always been the orchard. They have spent 48 years building a life that prioritizes these quiet moments over the loud applause of a crowd. However, 2026 has brought a heavy shift to the family dynamic that many fans are just starting to realize. With the passing of beloved uncles Wayne and Alan, the structure of the Osmond dynasty has fundamentally changed. The 5 sons are no longer just the kids of a famous star. They have officially transitioned into the role of the stewards of the name. They are the ones responsible for carrying the torch, now that the original generation is stepping back. This transition is a massive responsibility because the Osmond brand is more than just music. It is a standard of family values that has been polished for over 60 years. How do you think these 5 men feel carrying a name that has been a household staple for so long? The pressure to maintain that clean, professional image while living a private life is a balancing act that most people would find impossible. They have had to learn how to navigate the modern world of social media and constant connection without losing the mystery that their father worked so hard to protect. It is a unique kind of inheritance. They did not just get a famous last name, they got a set of expectations that they have to meet every single day. The real question is how they have managed to stay so successful in their own right without relying on the family's musical fame. With 16 grandkids to protect and a massive legacy to manage, the eldest son had to become the family's greatest strategist. But how exactly does the son of a pop star end up running a massive marketing empire instead of starting a boy band? The strategist and the healer. Being the firstborn of a legend comes with a very specific choice. You either spend your life chasing the ghost of your father's fame, or you decide to build a kingdom of your own where the cameras simply cannot find you. For Donny Clark Osmond Jr., who was born in 1979, the decision seemed to come naturally. While most people expected the eldest son of the world's biggest teen idol to grab a microphone, Don Jr. chose a different kind of power. He became the strategist behind the curtain. He realized very early on that while his father owned the stage, someone had to own the strategy that kept the Osmond name relevant in a digital world. Today, he is the driving force at a company called Ozcom. You might not see his face on a concert poster, but his marketing brain is what protects the Osmond brand from the shadows. He is not just a son who inherited a name, but he is a professional who understands how flashy brands and loud personalities secretly operate behind the scenes. He ensures that his father's legacy stays polished and professional without ever having to step into the blinding neon lights of a residency himself. It is a fascinating move because it shows that he understands the how and the why of fame better than almost anyone else. He chose to be the architect rather than the attraction. Do you think it takes more talent to perform for a crowd, or to be the one who makes sure the crowd shows up in the first place? Then we have Jeremy, the second-born son, who arrived in 1981. If Don Jr. is the strategist, Jeremy is often looked at as the rebel of the family, but not in the way you might think. He did not rebel by acting out or making headlines. Instead, he rebelled by choosing a life that was completely and utterly normal. He traded the stage for a physical therapy clinic. Jeremy Osmond walked away from the glitz of the entertainment industry to become a healer, earning a doctorate, and dedicated his life to helping people physically recover from their injuries. In 2026, Jeremy is reaching a milestone that really highlights how different his world is from the one his father inhabited at the same age. He is currently watching his own son, Dylan, complete a significant mission in Uruguay. This is a huge moment for the family because it represents a third generation of Osmonds who are finding their purpose through service rather than show business. It is a solid receipt that shows how grounded these men really are. They are not chasing Instagram filters or looking for the next viral moment. They are focused on real-world impact. Jeremy helps one person walk again, while his son serves a community thousands of miles away. When you compare that to the life of a pop star, it makes you wonder which legacy is actually harder to leave behind. It is actually quite inspiring to see how these two brothers have balanced the heavy reality of their family name. Jeremy traded the stage for a physical therapy clinic, and it makes you think about the pressure of the spotlight. Do you think it is harder to perform for thousands of screaming fans, or to sit in a quiet room and help one person find the strength to walk again? Which of those legacies would you choose if you were in their shoes? The way Don Jr. and Jeremy have navigated their adult lives gives us a clear look at how the Osmond dynasty is evolving in 2026. They are not living off the puppy love royalties. They are working jobs, raising families, and staying out of the gossip columns. They have mastered the art of being famous adjacent without letting the fame consume them. They are the guardians of a very specific kind of reality that the mainstream usually skips over. While Don and Jeremy focus on the more serious side of life through business and medicine, the middle sons found a way to keep the music alive. But one of them is doing it for the most famous mouse in the entire world. The creative pulse. Music is in the Osmond blood. But for Brandon and Chris, the sound of success does not always come with a standing ovation. That most famous mouse we mentioned earlier is actually the secret key to Chris's career. But before we get to the magic of Disney, we have to look at the brother who decided to keep his music inside the four walls of his home. Brandon Osmond, who was born in 1985, is a perfect example of someone who found a way to balance a massive legacy with a very normal life in Provo, Utah. By day, he is deep in the world of advertising and design, using that creative spark to build brands instead of fan clubs. He is not out there looking for a record deal or trying to top the charts, but that does not mean the music has stopped for him. In fact, Brandon keeps his jam sessions strictly for his four sons. creating a private soundtrack for his family that the public will never hear. It is a very deliberate choice to keep his art personal and grounded in his home life. He has mentioned before that he loves the creative process, but he does not necessarily love the circus that comes with being a professional performer. Do you think it is a relief to have all that talent, but none of the pressure to sell out stadiums? For Brandon, the win is being able to provide a stable, quiet life for his kids, while still being the coolest dad with a guitar in the neighborhood. Then we have Chris, who was born in 1990 and is probably the most visible of the 5 sons in 2026. If you follow reality television, you definitely recognize him from his time on the show Claim to Fame. It was a huge moment because he was the only son to truly step into the frame and let the world see him apart from his father's shadow. Even then, he played it smart. He did not lead with his last name. He let people guess and wonder, which is a total pro move. But even with that public appearance, Chris has kept his most important projects under wraps. In 2025, his life changed in a major way with the birth of his daughter, Rivy James. This little girl represents a new chapter for the Osmond family tree, and Chris has been very vocal about how much he values these family milestones over any professional accolade. His professional life is just as fascinating because he has been doing secret work with Disney. He contributes to the magic behind the scenes in music and post-production without needing his name in the bright lights. Imagine working on a Disney soundtrack and nobody even knows your dad is Donny Osmond. Is that the ultimate professional flex, or what? It really makes you wonder about the pressure of the name. Do you think it is more satisfying to be the star everyone knows, or to be the secret talent behind a global brand like Disney? Chris has managed to navigate both worlds by showing his face on TV while keeping his real work behind the scenes. He is giving us just enough to be curious, but he is keeping the best parts for himself and his family. He has proven that you can have the talent of a superstar without needing the constant noise of the paparazzi following you to the grocery store. But what about the youngest, the one who grew up when the Osmond frenzy had finally settled into a lasting legacy? How does the baby of the family handle being the father of the 16th grandchild? The anchor and the future. Joshua Osmond may be the youngest of the brothers, but in 2026, he is carrying the heaviest responsibility by keeping the core values of the family alive in a fast-moving digital age. Born in 1998, Josh grew up in a world where the name Osmond was more of a legendary legacy than a fresh tabloid headline. This has given him a unique perspective on what it means to protect a brand while living a life that is completely real. He is not just the baby of the family anymore, but he has become the anchor for the next generation of the dynasty. We first saw this grounded approach back in 2020 during his backyard wedding to Summer Felstead. While other celebrity families might have sold the rights to their wedding photos to a magazine or hosted a massive, flashy event, Josh chose a simple and intimate ceremony right at home. It was a clear signal that for the youngest Osmond, family comes before the cameras. This commitment to a normal life became even clearer in 2025 with the arrival of his son, Carson Dean. With the birth of Carson, Josh officially became a legacy planter, ensuring that the Osmond name continues to thrive in a way that is quiet, respectful, and deeply personal. It is fascinating to watch how the brothers have handled the passing of the torch. With original members like Alan and Wayne moving into their quiet years, the original Osmond era is slowly fading from the public eye. Do you think Josh and his brothers are doing the right thing by staying private? Or do you secretly wish they would all get together and start a new band for the 2020s? It is a tough choice, but when you look at how happy they seem in their private lives, it is hard to argue with their results. They are not hiding from the world because they are ashamed, but they are intentionally planting themselves in normal careers and local communities to ensure the name survives for another 100 years without the burnout of fame. The why behind this strategy is actually pretty brilliant. By choosing to be physical therapists, real estate agents, and marketing experts, they have removed the target that usually sits on the back of famous families. They get to enjoy the history of their father's success without the stress of maintaining it. They have figured out how to own the legacy without letting the legacy own them. It is a masterclass in privacy that most modern influencers could probably learn a lot from. As we look at the 16 trees in that Utah orchard that Donny often talks about, each representing a grandchild, we have to ask ourselves what the real secret to their 50-year survival actually is. It is not just about the music or the talent, but it is about the roots they have put down in the dirt of everyday life. But as we wrap up this look at the five brothers, there is one final piece of the puzzle that explains how they all stayed so unified. What is the secret ingredient that Donny and Debbie used to keep five boys from ever falling into the typical traps of Hollywood? Why the shadows work? Most Hollywood dynasties crumble under the weight of the massive spotlight. So how did Donny's sons become the exception to the rule? It is a question that fascinates anyone who has watched other celebrity families fall apart in the public eye. To understand why Donny's boys are doing so well in 2026, we actually have to take a quick trip back to the 1970s. That was the era of Osmond mania, a time when Donny couldn't even walk down the street without being swarmed by thousands of screaming fans. It was flashy, it was loud, and it was constant. But Donny lived through the exhaustion of that era and decided he wanted something completely different for his own children. He and his wife, Debbie, created a parenting philosophy that was all about the shadows. Instead of pushing their sons onto stage as soon as they could walk, they intentionally kept them away from the industry until they were grown men. This gave them the chance to develop their own identities as real people first, rather than just being Donny Osmond's kid. By the time the boys were old enough to choose their own paths, they had a solid foundation that didn't rely on fame. Because of this protective bubble, the sons transitioned into adulthood with a healthy sense of reality that most child stars never get to experience. Look back at those old clips of the Osmond brothers on the variety show. You see that classic spark and that undeniable talent in their eyes. But when you look at Donny's sons today, do you see that same spark, even if they aren't performing on a Vegas stage? It seems the answer is yes, but it is channeled into different things. Whether it is physical therapy, marketing, or raising the next generation, they have that same Osmond drive, just without the blinding neon lights. They realized that the most powerful thing you can own in 2026 isn't a gold record, but a private life that you actually enjoy. The shadows aren't where you go to hide. The shadows are where you go to grow. While the rest of the world is chasing likes and viral moments on Instagram, the Osmond brothers are finding peace in the quiet moments. They have proven that you can inherit a legendary name without inheriting the chaos that usually comes with it. It makes you wonder, if more celebrity parents followed this shadow rule, would we see fewer Hollywood tragedies? The solid receipts of their success aren't found in a trophy case, but in the fact that all five brothers are still close, grounded, and thriving. As we look at this family today, it is clear that they have unlocked a hidden level of reality. They have the legacy, the stories, and the talent, but they also have their sanity. It is a rare win in a world that usually demands everything from you. But as we wrap up this journey into the private lives of the Osmond sons, There is one final question to answer about the future of this famous family. The Osmond sons have proven that the greatest claim to fame is a life well lived off camera. But what do you think? Is staying private the ultimate power move for celebrity kids, or should they have shared their talents with the world? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like and subscribe for more.